What's going on? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Hey, everybody. We are into the thick of November already. I mean, it's November. How the heck is this possible? We're already counting down to the end of the year. And today, well, we got an album of the year contender right here. If you like deathcore, metalcore, anything around there, ooh, boy, you're going to want to listen to this one. Before we get started, though, I want to thank our sponsors. First off, Manscaped. Yes, now that we are into November, there are so many places that are trying to do everything possible to basically sell you on stuff for Christmas, you know, with the holiday season, so whoop-de-doo, and shit, I don't even know. If it's not This Holiday by Dragged Under, I really don't want to listen to it. This holiday, I want to be alone. Give the mistletoe on my own. I know I botched that. I don't really care. Yeah, so of course the holiday season is already like coming close. Advertisers are throwing everything your way, and I mean, I honestly buy all my gifts early. Reason being is because ever since the pandemic, trying to get shipping, make sure things get here on time. Oof, big time oof. But that's why we're here today, because you know, maybe you got a family member. Maybe you got someone that doesn't take best care of themselves down there, if you know what I mean. Maybe their bush is wild. Maybe it's wacky. Maybe you want to make sure that you give someone the gift of a Christmas shave down there. That's where Manscaped comes in. Get that person a lawnmower 4.0 to give them that gift of a Christmas shave under the waist belt. Ooh, yeah. And that lawnmower 4.0 is a perfect way to do it because it has advanced skin safe technology to make sure you do not get those like nick cuts on your boys. You don't want that. And that advanced skin safe technology, I mean, I use this stuff too. So it's like, ooh, it really doesn't do any of that. So I'm like, oh boy, this is beautiful. It is also waterproof and has a 4K LED light on there so you can see what you're doing down there. So you can light your boys up like a Christmas tree while you're trimming your trees down there. Okay, that was really weird. But whatever. Go and get yourself a Lawnmower 4.0. Go get someone you love a Lawnmower 4.0 for Christmas this year. And go to manscaped.com to get it and use the code CPP to get 20% off and free shipping your entire order. Yeah, I said order. I'd say go do it now, mostly because, well, why wait? Get it done. Stress gone. Gift giving list off your plate. Booyah. Link strips to the podcast. Another feature presentation. So I have Howard from the band Within Destruction on here. The Slovenian deathcore metalcore band just released their new album Lotus at the end of September. While we were recording this, they were on tour, a headliner run throughout Europe and the United Kingdom. And man, we go into this album and we talk about like the difference between their deathcore style going more metalcore, how they tote that line, how they put all these different inclusions with like electronic programming in there and tote that perfect line of not going too much, not going too little. They perfectly balance this out, man. This album is great. If you like bands like Polaris, Make Them Suffer, those Australian metalcore bands, yeah, this is definitely something right up your alley. This is something that is absolutely incredible. We also talk about the tour they're on right now, how fans are receiving the album, especially live, and we come up with an idea on how to make touring even better to make sure you get the most energy out of it. So please welcome Howard from Within Destruction to the podcast. Are you guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and boys and girl listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. It took a little bit of time to get this band the podcast, but after the release of their brand new album, I mean, it was like undeniable. I had to have a chance to talk to these guys. This band's new album called Lotus is available now for you guys to go check out. So if you like anything in that deathcore, metalcore realm, you're going to listen and be like, oh my God, I need more of this in my life right now. So please welcome Howard from the band Within Destruction to the podcast. So Howard, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on, man. I mean, I know we're shooting this right now, and you are on tour out in the in the UK and Europe right now. So how has everything been going with that? How's it been going with the release of the album? Just how are you doing right now, man?
Dude, the tour itself has been doing really well. I'm really excited that we get to play all these new songs to new and old people. Additionally, all the bands that we have on tour, we took out Earthcaller, Bound in Fear, and Space of Variations. And these are all like super, super sick bands. And every band has like a really distinct style. And you're not going to get like one band that sounds like the next, so it's always really refreshing to hear, and like it's a pleasure to have them as well. And yeah, man, like so far, just all the shows have been really sick, man. The turnouts have been great. People have been really enjoying it, and yeah, it makes me really happy to see.
See, now you're making me jealous just by saying that, because I want to be like, come over and bring this shit to the US, man. I want to listen to this stuff live. I want to throw down the pit like none other, especially to some of these nasty ass breakdowns you guys got going on. Like, I bring this over here, but all at the same point in time, I'm thinking, you know what, maybe next time you guys are like, after this run, if you guys are back out on the road in Europe once again, maybe in 2023, I might just have to say, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to end up buying a ticket over to wherever you guys are playing in Europe and just hang out there for a little bit, because, I mean, that sounds like a fun time, especially if you guys are getting that great of a turnout for this stuff. Man, I want to be in that crowd going absolutely nuts to this stuff.
Yeah, man, dude, like I would absolutely love to take this whole thing to the States, like it would be so sick to be back there, especially like I don't know. I'm really excited to see when we go back to the States, like how these new songs are going to be received by our fans over there. So yeah, man, like I'm sure that's going to happen really soon. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Like, I kind of want to see this happen where all of a sudden we get a bunch of, like, the Australian metalcore bands come over again, and then all of a sudden have you guys end up on the bill with them, like, get you on the bill with, like, Invent Animate, Alpha Wolf, Polaris, Make Them Suffer, stuff like that, because, I mean, like, I've seen shows with them come through, it's just, the crowd just gets amped up in such a way where it's just, you can't do anything but move and start smashing to someone. You hear those songs, you feel that energy, and after listening to Lotus, I'm just like, my God, that would fit so perfectly within this, and fans just come flocking to that stuff. Like, we need that to happen.
Yeah, bro, like that would be so sick. Like I'd love to be on a bill with all those bands. Like I know Australian bands do really well over there, and like yeah, dude, like the scene over there is just crazy. So yeah, dude, it would be sick.
If you guys got in a bill with them, the competition would be every single night who can get the crowd going the absolute craziest, who can bring the most amount of energy, and who can get basically the best wall of death of the whole entire night. Because we keeping score like in the buses, just like, alrighty, we won this day, Polaris won this day, we won this moment already. We'll just like tally it up and we'll figure out who won at the end of the whole entire tour. And then whoever wins, every other band has to buy him beer.
Sounds like a good time, dude. Like honestly, it sounds like such a motivation to like go really hard every day, you know?
You just got to add it to it, because it's something that, you know, it's not over the top, but it's something that's fun. But it's something that's like you also still really want to win that, because you want to have those bragging rights over those other bands.
Exactly. I feel like that would be such a fun way to like get shows like really going, and also just like it's an interband competition who has the like craziest mosh or something. It would be sick. It would be sick to see for sure.
And then, like, you know, put up like every day, put up the updated scoreboard on whatever, like, everyone puts up in their social media platforms, so that all of a sudden everybody's fans see this stuff. And it's like, it just becomes more of a thing where, you know, metalcore fans, deathcore fans, or just fans of these bands in general want to go out and just enjoy this as much as possible. They want to go out and just like, I gotta hear this. I gotta be a part of this. I gotta help my favorite band get to that point. But then all of a sudden, you know, they hear all the other bands, and it's like, you get to your favorite band, that might be the headline. You're like, fuck, I don't know if I have the energy to still go.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like, I don't know. I just think that would be so sick. And to be honest, I think we would do pretty well on that. So yeah.
I mean, listening to the music, I could clearly see you guys being able to bring that kind of energy. And I am jealous of the fact that I can't see it live right now, because, like, you guys are out there, like, you playing these new songs live. Like, I want to see this, but there's a big giant thing called the Atlantic Ocean in between you guys and me right now that is preventing me from being able to do this.
It makes it really hard for sure, but eventually we'll be over there. Like we love touring the States, so like the whole experience itself, and also just like the shows. Like I'm really looking forward to going back.
Oh, I have no doubt that you guys will be back sometime soon as well. But with the shows you're playing right now, what has the crowd perception been like, especially from a lot of the songs that are on Lotus? What have they like? What's the energy been like? And have they created some of those craziest mosh pits you've ever seen? Because I know some of these songs can easily do that.
Dude, I think it's been better than ever, to be honest. When we were touring on the previous cycle for Yokai, we were still kind of in that transition, like that's transitionary phase between our deathcore sound and our metalcore sound, and you can see that like the fans, I would say most of the fans are into it, right? And we go on, we play like the new songs, they're super into it, but then there's like still some of the older fans that are like kind of like a little bit hesitant on like whether or not like this is like their thing, which is totally cool. But now that we've kind of had that full transition into this new sound, um, I like most like everyone that comes to our shows, like they're totally into it. They're like they love it. So like I'm really excited. I'm really happy to see that people are enjoying it. It's still heavy, so like people are still moshing, and yeah, dude, like it's sick.
Well, even after listening to it too, I can understand where some of those old fans, especially from your older deathcore, sounded like, they still kind of want some of that. And understandable, that's what they like, that's what they really vibe with, that's what they're going to go with. However, after listening to a lot of the songs on Lotus, it's not like you guys completely abandon that either. There are plenty of times where all of a sudden you listen to one of those breakdowns and there's a lot of that deathcore style that comes into there. There's much more of a blend between that metalcore, deathcore style to the point where, for myself, as much more of a metalcore fan, listening to this, I am totally down with almost every single aspect of it. But from a deathcore fan's perspective, it's just like, oh, I wish it was heavier. All of a sudden you hear a breakdown, you're like, okay, I'm right back into this. Like, it's such a nice blend of both of those styles to the point where you guys have created something that is pretty uniquely yourselves, and only a couple of, maybe a handful of bands have something where it's like, this is for fans of, and that's why I brought up some of those Australian metalcore bands, because sometimes when they incorporate some of that heavier stuff into their styles, like kind of like make them suffer, perfectly works within that kind of a like mindset framework style. So I can easily understand where, you get different kind of fans that come in, metalcore, deathcore, but after listening to all the songs on Lotus, it's just, who's going to go to that show and be like, they didn't play it heavy enough, they didn't play it metalcore enough. They're going to go after that show and be like, fuck, that was good.
Yeah, dude, hopefully. I mean, you're right. I feel like it wouldn't be within destruction if it wasn't heavy. Like we like the big choruses and we like clean singing and we love metalcore. We like that's the direction that we want to go in, but we have to still make it heavy. It's gonna be weird if we put out like I don't know a shoegaze album and it was like actually soft and we were using like Telecasters and like I don't know just really just more softer instrumentation. That would be super weird for us to do. I think the thing that's holding the sound together is just that we're still heavy.
Yeah, because if you would have gone from something, to a lot lighter of a style, kind of similar, like, jump from, let's say, Bring Me the Horizon Suicide Seasons to Bring Me the Horizon Amo, like that's a complete massive jump that just can't happen over the course of, one album cycle. But all of a sudden, it's when it comes to you guys evolving your sound and really getting that, understood, getting that core sound from Within Destruction created, especially on this album, mixing that deathcore and metalcore style together to keep those big choruses, to keep a cleaner style behind it, especially when it comes to the vocals in that perspective, but the verses still being able to go heavy and hard and having some of those deathcore growls in there, especially in some of the verses, in some of the breakdowns, in a good amount of that style. It's something where all of a sudden, again, you guys could be perfectly on a bill with a bunch of those Australian metalcore bands, but if I also saw you on a bill opening for like Slaughter to Prevail, I wouldn't think anything of it. I'd be like, oh yeah, this totally makes fucking sense.
Yeah, exactly. I think if anything, it just opens us up to more possibilities in terms of who we can play with. Our music now being more accessible. People might listen to Lotus and then find out that they like heavier, like the heavier elements of that album, and then look to our previous discography and look to other bands that are in like deathcore, and it's just like a whole. It's just a whole path that people can go down when you introduce them to stuff like that. So yeah, I'm really happy that we did that. I mean, that's something that we wanted to do for a long time, and now we can. So super stoked.
Yeah, because there's always going to have to be those bands that kind of create that like pathway or gateway between one style to the next. You're not just going to wake up one day and say, hell, I love Slaughter Prevail and Lorna Shore. It's like, well, how did you get to that point? There's always going to be certain steps that take you to that point where all of a sudden, say you're listening to more, hard rock music, then all of a sudden it's like you get that post-hardcore transition that takes that metalcore transition. And then you guys being you guys in those Australian metalcore bands being that perfect bridge between possible, metalcore, deathcore, all of a sudden now you jump into it and it's just, there's an understanding of progression that happens there within your mindset. And it's just, it makes it so much easier to follow along with everything that's going on, understand the emotions behind the sounds, the lyrics, the pace, just the energy of the show. It makes so much more sense to go through that transition. You guys perfectly are in that place where all of a sudden, for someone like myself who loves metalcore, all of a sudden just like, yeah, I want to get into deathcore more. Alrighty, let's listen within instruction. Let's start out with Lotus so I can get a taste of it, see the metalcore combination there, then jump to some of your older stuff to get more of that heavier style. And then it's like, okay, now I can jump to all these different deathcore bands and just get into them like that, like lickety split. No big deal because I understand the transition from one spot to the next now.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like I think you hit the nail right on the head.
I need a hammer and a board right here. So every time someone says you hit the nail on the head, I can just go, boom, done. So
Nice. You should do that.
I'm going to have to. So with you guys out on tour right now, what has been like the best show you guys have had on tour so far, especially with this being the Lotus release tour, headlining run? What's been that like one show that you've played so far where it sticks out in your head like, man, this was too fucking cool?
I would say either Budapest or Paris. Now that's just because the fans there are absolutely insane. They go really fucking hard and they're very passionate. So like whenever we play these countries like Budapest and France, um, they're just incredible. Like Budapest and Paris, just more specifically. Yeah, like people are like diving off stage and like when you look into the pits, like it's super hectic. It's just wild. Like you know it's crazy when I'm like playing guitar and I look up and like I just see absolute chaos in like a verse of a song. You know what I mean? Like because that's like that like super heavy like moshing happens in like the heavy parts, but like if you see like just consistent movement throughout the show, it's good. So yeah, dude, hats off to those two cities.
Shit, if I'd known that, I would have flown out to Paris or Budapest. Because when I go in those pits, it's just if I'm standing at any moment, something's not right. It's like I gotta move for that whole entire set. But one thing, it does surprise me that it was Paris and Budapest that stood out to you, especially from a lot of the bands I've talked to. Many bands really look to like Germany or look to the United Kingdom, especially as like the places where you're gonna get those like absolute craziest shows in pits. But Paris and Budapest, I've not heard that, but that just makes me even more intrigued about the whole entire European scene.
For us, like that's just how it has been for some reason. Just France specifically goes really hard. So I really like playing there.
Man, apparently I gotta go to France and just see what happens with some of these shows
Yeah.
because I did like from all the different bands I've asked, I never heard France before. So now you've just piqued my curiosity on this.
Yes, sir. It's a good one.
Dang. Well, I mean, we'll see if that holds up though in terms of the best shows because you guys still got more to go. You never
We
know all
have
of a sudden.
Germany.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys
we still got Germany left, so maybe I'll change my opinion then.
maybe in the past has Germany treated you guys very well in terms of crowd reception?
Oh yeah, dude, I love playing in Germany. Like it's like the crowds there are awesome. Like they're also very passionate and they go really hard, very supportive in terms of, like, picking up your merch, like streaming your music, like talking to you. Like it's great. Like I love Germany. And also like just the venues, um, they're awesome. Like the green rooms, the stages, like everything's like super professional, really well done. Like Germans have it down when it comes to like, the shows and when it comes to, you know, performances in this industry.
Man, you're making me even more jealous right now because I want to go over to Germany and see how they do everything compared to how everything is done over here in the US and just kind of like come back and just all these venues. Alrighty, this is what Germany does, and everything's done well, and those shows are just absolutely wild. But everyone, and you leave the show and everyone's happy. Even people that have blood running down their face, it was like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, it was awesome, man.
Yeah, dude, exactly.
So that sounds like me at the festival I was at a couple of weeks ago. Because I got to go see In Flames. I was trying to get into the pit. I'm like, where the heck is it? And I see this dude just blood running down his face, walking in my direction. All I said was, I don't know where the pit is, but I'm going towards where that guy just came from.
Yeah. What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Yeah, dude, fucking In Flames is sick. Was that the one with Fit for an Autopsy?
They would have been on that tour. However, because I saw them at a festival, I didn't actually get to see the. Because they came to where I live about a week before the festival. I didn't have a chance to actually go and see them. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go see In Flames at this festival called Louder Than Life, and just seeing like the people walking back with blood in their face. I'm like, I need to go where they just were. I need to see what the hell's happening. Most violent pit of the whole entire weekend, and I'm like, and it was nuts. Like they had a more violent pit than like Lamb of God and Slipknot, who were on the same day.
Damn, that's impressive. I would have never thought that In Flames would be able to pull that over Slipknot and Lamb of God. That's crazy.
I mean, it wasn't the crazy. It wasn't like the craziest in terms of energy pit, but like just in the scope of sheer violence, it was. I don't know how to describe it. In the scope of sheer violence, In Flames had it.
I'm impressed. I have to see them.
Yeah, well, now it's like.
Sorry.
I'll say. Well, now it's like you're gonna have to go see them, see kind of like how they can get those more crazy pits. Like, well, how can we make stuff that happen so that we go out on those tours and we have the board of like who can get the craziest show going. We can make sure that every night Within Destruction gets that mark, and at the end of the tour, we get all the beer.
Dude, yeah. I mean, the guys don't drink, but I mean, we'll take some other form of reward.
Steak dinner.
Done. I'll take that.
So that would be a pretty decent alternative. All of a sudden, like you're on tour with 3 other bands, and it's like, okay, you guys won, but you guys don't drink. What if you guys just all chipped in and we went out to the 3 of us went out to a steak dinner? Done. Like there you go, taken care of.
Easy, dude. It sounds like a win-win situation for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just takes care of every aspect of it. But so now I want to jump a little bit more into Lotus specifically, as it is the brand new album. And again, you're talking about like, that little bit of transition from deathcore to metalcore, now having it more mixed in there. One thing that was also really consistent on this album was the use of a lot of like electronic programming to really complement the styles of the songs. And I have heard a lot of different bands go with like different electronic programming. Some go way over the top of it, some kind of keep in the back. You guys, I don't know how to describe it more than this. When it came down to listening to it, the electronic programming was clearly there, but it was done in such a way where it was so complementary to the heavier style you were working with. It never seemed out of place. It never seemed like it was overdone or over. It just seemed to be like you guys followed such a fine line on this, but you never strayed from that fine line. Like everything was done so well. So how did you guys like work to put all these different pieces with electronic programming to really make Lotus pop as much as it did?
Dude, thanks, man. So when I write, I like to use synths and pads and effects when I'm writing, just in general, just because I feel like it just adds so much to the music. Specific, like a good example would be like a chorus or something like that. I could have a pad in the background and it just adds like this total. It's just like totally next level, and it's just an extra layer that it doesn't need to be there, but you're gonna miss it if it's not there. And that's why I think that's why it doesn't feel like it's over the top, because while writing this, I did write with the synths, and I did write with all the effects, and all the extra stuff that goes on top, like maybe some like embellishments and just some extra layers here and there. We work with a producer in Italy called his name is Federico. Federico Ascari, I think that's his last name. We sent everything to him, all the effects, and then he kind of just has his own. He he'll like put his own ideas and like have his own input in it, and then like we'll run it back and forth because I think he's just like he's got a way better ear for production and just for like the post production that area. So we trust him a lot in terms of like helping us shape our sound. And yeah, man, like we try to have everything complement the music. Like we'll never we're not the kind of band that's like, oh, this is a cool part, we have to have this cool part. It's like, yeah, if this part is cool, like, but it's not gonna but it doesn't really help the song or it doesn't really complement it, then ultimately it's kind of useless. You know what I mean? Like we're not really attached to parts. We're more focused on the big picture thing. So just the overall song. Yeah, I know what you mean by over the top synths. Like maybe it's too busy or maybe it's just like not in line with the energy and the vibe of the song. Maybe it doesn't fit a specific section. It just sticks out. And it for us, like we're really like conscientious about like what goes into a song. And since we are already writing with synths and effects, like everything fits. We're not like trying to fit everything was all made this way.
Totally understandable. Now, before I go into some more of this stuff, you're talking about that you work with Federico in Italy. Is he the same person that works with the band Stain the Canvas as well? Do you know?
Sorry, which bands?
Stain the Canvas. If you,
I'm not sure. I'm
I'll
actually
say
not sure about that.
just because I know that like I've,
Stain.
I've I've interviewed them before. I actually am recording with them like literally the same day I'm recording with you, just a little bit later. And it's just like
Oh,
hearing
nice.
their style, and like how they put in these different electronic programming pieces to really make it sound like a more orchestral feel. It's like how, and it's because the thing is it's clearly there, it's clearly powerful, but it's never overdone. It's like it still totes that fine line, along with similar to what you guys have done with your programming style and your synth style. So I'm like wondering, especially with him, is he also producing the same point too? Because if you guys, if they're producing such on like such a fine line, like I feel like that's just kind of got to be like a, what's the best way to put it? There's got to be some sort of a similarity there. It just sticks too much out of my mind. I'll even ask them like if when I talk to them later today, and I might have to message you, be like, dude, they do makes total sense to me.
Sick. Yeah, man. I mean, they write the same way. Like, but yeah, Federico is great.
Yeah.
When it came to all the effects stuff, for sure.
Well, and then what you did say too, where you are writing your music with these different synths, with these different programming aspects already in mind, so that it's not like, okay, now when post production comes in, you're trying to, see how you can make this pop a little bit more. It's okay, you're not adding this on top of it to the point where it can go so over the top to try and make a certain part, like you said, sound cool, but then it doesn't really work with the vibe song, or it changes up the whole entire emotion and feeling of the song on a dime, which at times can work, but at times, more often than not, can just make a song seem kind of busy, rushed, or at the same point in time, just not really conducive. It's kind of like all the switches that happen in Stick Stickly by Attack Attack. So if any crabcore fans out there like, are you like ripping on Stick Stickly?
Ripping
I'm
on the anthem, are we?
I'm sorry guys, but there's some things about it that I'm just not a fan of personally. However, when it
Yeah.
comes to your guys' style, it makes so much more sense now why this works out so well, because that idea for this is already in there. It's already a part of the writing process. You're not going into this like, we're just going to play this hard and heavy and then we're going to add all this stuff later. It's the thought process already there. So when the post-production style comes in, you're adding other things, you're layering things. That mindset is already there. The emotion is already there. The vibe of the song is already there. The feeling is already there. So you're not going to stray from that overall flow of the song, the flow of the story, the flow of the emotional journey we go on from beginning to end. We're not going to take this massive detour because something else gets added. We already know what needs to be added here. It depends upon how much we want to amplify it, bring it down, where we want it in that mix.
Yeah, man. Pretty much. I think that's pretty much it. Just Everything's already in mind. We're not adding. I mean, we're not adding insane amounts of like layering after the fact. Maybe we will have a few additional layers here and there, but that's just to complement the songs. We're not gonna try to write something completely new over something that we already have.
Yeah, because if you try and write something completely new over something you already have, it's can take this whole entire different turn to the point when you get that final product of a song and now you listen to it, it can be going one way in line, all of a sudden it takes that turn and then comes back. It's just, okay, do we really need to go all the way around and then like basically the journey of the song to get back to this point when if we just kept it straight, the flow would go better. And then when we get to like the bridge and the breakdown, we really want to make it hit heavy. Everyone's been on this consistent build up to it, and you have to take that detour to try and get built back up to it. It's kind of like going to a concert, going to see a bunch of bands. All of a sudden, you see a great lineup, and then there's a band that, for some reason, just doesn't necessarily make sense. It's on the bill, and then when you go and see them live, and it's just okay, this doesn't necessarily still feel right. Like they're probably playing really well, but it just doesn't fit with the vibe of the whole show. So then the energy by the time you get to that, whatever band you want to see or the headliner. That energy is still trying to build back up again. You want to keep that thing consistently flowing. So when you get to the chorus, what people are going to remember, when you get to the breakdown, we're going to go all wall of death in the crowd. You want that energy to be consistently driven to that point so that when it hits with maximum effectiveness.
Yeah, man, pretty much. I agree.
But man, I've been listening to too much music just like to dive into this like too much. I can't help it. Like, love doing this stuff. So also when it comes to Lotus, though, I know if I ask you to pick a favorite song off the album, it's like trying to pick one of your favorite children. That's usually what everyone tells me. However, I'm going to still ask it. Out of all the songs on Lotus, which one for you just stands out as like this is my favorite song that we made on the record?
It's going to be Dying World.
Really? Easy. Alrighty, let's talk
that's
about
it. That's actually an easy answer for me. Dying World for sure.
So why is Dying World the one that just sticks out to you like none other?
I think Dying World was our attempt at making the most melodic thing that we can make. We have the Lotus on there, but not even that. Like just even the chorus, we tried something we just tried to make a straight up metalcore melodic softer song, and like it just works. Like we just never done anything like that, and the fact that it's out and people are loving it, and the fact that people are receptive to like us trying this like completely like melodic version of the band, like it's super sick. And also like I really like Lil Lotus's part, and I really like the chorus. Like it's just I personally think it's the best song that we've ever done as a band. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's easy for me to answer that question.
See, I can see that, especially because I'm just taking a look at my notes on that song as well. Because of course, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna just be like, oh, we're gonna have this on here and like not be prepared to talk about some of this stuff. With Dying World, it's especially when you open that like more melodic style, it does have the softer electronic feel to it. But it's the way that programming is set up. And I said it makes you kind of feel like we're in this like fantasy world in a way. But then all of a sudden it drops this more metalcore bass. Well, it keeps the electronics up, basically like we're still in that world, but we're just feeling life at this point. At the same time, it's like we're still kind of in this like perfect world in our minds. But all of a sudden now the metalcore style comes in. It's much more raw. But now we're kind of seeing both sides of the story here. So we're feeling that just a completely different emotion throughout the whole entire thing. Little Lotus, though, his feature it was something where I listened to him like, I wonder where they're going to put it in there. But putting it right into the bridge, I just thought, hearing him kind of with that faster rapping style, it just added so much more to the song as you built up just to keep going throughout the rest of the song. It just brought that, it was that piece where we just talked about where it comes to just building that energy. This adding in there kind of, it didn't make that you go on a detour. It's like you put your foot on the gas pedal and you went right through it. Like, it just added so much more to it in terms of amping everybody up. So having that feature on there, I can easily see why people live shows right now are just like, this is probably like one of our favorite songs to go nuts to. Even though all the other ones go hard, there's something about this one that just, the energy gets you going, especially when that Little Lotus part comes in.
Yeah, dude. I don't know, like having him on the bridge is just it's crazy. Like we had him on the verse and the bridge, but just like the bridge part where it's like that, like it's more of a calm part, and it's got that trap beat with that high like melodyne top line thing. Like it's sick, dude. It's like you're right. It makes you feel like you're in like a fantasy world. We implemented some like softer electronics, so like like plucks that are softer, pads, just like more ambient, more like vibey, um, wetter sounding synths, and it just yeah, that's the whole vibe of that song. And yeah, dude, like the bridge of that song is just like for me, it's like probably one of my favorite moments on the album for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Because even like the bridge on it, it kind of works as a breakdown in a sort of way, just because you have more that like deathcore crank, especially on the instrumentals. So you're not taking any part away from like, really dropping so far down. And then when Little Lotus comes in again, like I said, it's like you're driving, you're already going like 65, 70 miles an hour. And now it comes on, and next thing you know, by the time the part ends, you're going to look at the speedometer, you're already going 120. Because that has happened before to me with certain songs, and I can easily see that happening here. It's like, okay, Kevin, slow down. Oh, I didn't even realize I was going that fast.
Nice.
Within Destruction made me do it. But it was like the way that those synths added too, and the different programming, different pads, it brought that feeling of like you're in a fantasy world, but all of a sudden now you mix everything in there, you're kind of getting the base of reality versus fantasy, but also it brought this darker feel to the fantasy world overall. And that's where that whole entire electronic, towing that fine line, and then bringing some of those trap beats in there, it really brought more of this distorted view of that fantasy world to the whole entire thing. So when you think about the song title, Dying World, it's whatever that fantasy world you had propped up in your mind, just with the way that the synths were, especially all of a sudden you're bringing those trap beats in there, it just brings it down in terms of like from like this positive fantasy world, like this darker, more sinister type thing that potentially kind of has to die and be destroyed for you to focus on reality.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the meaning of all that, but like, I guess like if you're trying to like put some meaning in terms of like the instrumentation, yeah, like that's a really good interpretation of it for sure.
And a lot of people might have different interpretations as well. It all depends upon what we've gone through in life, how we relate our personal lives to whatever song we're listening to. But just when it comes to the emotion of that song, like I think everyone's gonna feel some sort of way around that, potential like feeling like there's a fantasy world that you might be living in that is being destroyed and dying through this. And then it's
Sure, man. Yeah.
whatever you might have propped up, whether it's, maybe like how your perception of a relationship, perception of a job, perception of wherever you are in life, and all of a sudden it's kind of like a changing perception kind of style. And a lot of those electronic implementations in this, the trap beats, just the different programming, it creates that kind of like distortion feel to it. So it's now you're starting to see a little bit more of the reality side of things, and it kind of has a little bit more of this powerful feeling way, especially at the end of it, to kind of you want to make a change in something, you don't want to live in that fantasy world anymore, fine, you can, it's on you, like, but you got the power to do it. And that Little Lotus feature in the bridge, it's like, again, you want to do it, now you can, and now you got to put your pedal on the floor, pedal the metal, right through it with the energy.
Right. Yeah, man. Totally.
Yeah, I just like doing that stuff when it comes to like listening to music. There's always some sort of weird connection I'm gonna make to it, and like with Dying World, I could easily just see that's where it kind of came from. So
You like metaphors.
I don't, yeah, for some reason it's just I find the metaphor in there, and it's something where I find the metaphor in it, and then I basically kind of put like my own experiences into it to just relate to it. And that's where all of a sudden, when I got into metalcore, when I've gotten even further into some of the heavier stuff too, that's how it kind of is all gets done, especially when sometimes there's some unclean vocals or some really dirty screams where like, I can't understand a freaking word of this. However,
Right.
I can feel the emotion from the vocals, and I can also understand more of that from the way the instrumentals are being played, whether it's fast, slow, whether there's blast beats, whether it's more melodic, whatever kind of programming's on top of it. There's always some sort of emotional story to be told.
Totally. Yeah, man, that's music. Like it's cool because when we write this, it's like when I write it, I just go more off like a vibe or feeling. I don't really have anything like that specific to because I'm writing like the instrumentals, right?
Mhm.
Like, what is this chord going to mean? You know what I mean? It's just for me, it just sounds good. Like this combination of stuff sounds good to me, so I'm gonna track it. I'm gonna put it out. So it's cool that Rook is able to come in and put his lyrics on it. We're able to like make it all work together, and then we get to put it out, and then like the last layer is like whoever's listening to it on the final end, like they're gonna have whatever interpretation they're gonna have, and that's cool because like it's super subjective, and yeah, like I don't really like write with the intention of, oh, this is what you're supposed to feel here. You know what I mean? Like people are gonna feel what they feel, and it's cool that we could do that for them.
Well, just thinking about that sort of process, it makes a lot of sense where it starts with you writing a certain way, finding certain riffs, finding certain ideas, picking up on a certain vibe that you're feeling, and just kind of running with it, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, building off of that. And then when you get to Ruck, just put vocals on top of it, put the lyrics on top of it. He's feeding off the vibe that you created with that. So now
Right.
all of a sudden he's picking up a certain emotion, picking up a certain vibe, which is probably putting a story in his mind that's allowing him to write the lyrics, to put out a certain idea, put out a certain message. Then whoever's mixing the track gets to listen, gets to pick up on that vibe, gets to see where Rook was going to take it with the vocals, and then mix it in a certain way where that's going to all get amplified. So when it gets to be the final product and it reaches us, the listeners, we get to feel all three different aspects of that. We get to feel the initial vibe, the initial drive behind there, the interpretation of that vibe, how it's amplified, and then we get to really boil it back down to where that core emotion is, and then ride the wave of it once again, but also understand how, like us relating to it, us taking those metaphors and putting our own personal lives into it, and really getting behind the songs and really finding different explanations for things in our lives where we really don't have explanations for them, or like how it made us feel. It's like, oh, you want to know how it felt? Literally listen to the chorus on Lotus. Boom. Done. That's what it felt like.
Nice. Yeah, dude, exactly.
Say, but even for myself too, like, what are some other songs that people have been really basically very highly receptive to on this tour with this album? Because there were two songs that really stuck out to me on this album as like, oh my god, if I got to hear these live, things are gonna get broken, possibly myself. So I want to see if the songs that I had in my mind are the ones that are also being very receptive to the fans. So what other songs on this album that you've been playing live have the fans been just like, oh my god?
I think Scars is a good one that we play. Um, I think that one's really crazy just because it's probably the most technical song we've ever written. I mean, it doesn't really sound like it, but like the guitar work and the drum playing is really, really, really hard. Like me and Luca struggle with that, and like it's getting a lot better now. The fact that we play it every day, but also just yeah, like the technicality with it, and also just the chorus itself, because it goes into like this like weird major thing, and we never do that. Like it's super breaking Benjamin, and we've never done that ever. And like people seem to really really like that chorus, and whenever we play it, like it just feels awesome, and looks like people are enjoying it as well. Like they're singing along to it, which is great. And yeah, it's got my favorite guitar solo on that album as well. So yeah, that's the one. That's the one that I think is something new that we're playing now that people are most receptive to. The next one would be, I would say, Neo Yakuza, which is kind of like the half trap, half metal kind of thing. Just because it's like it's just such an ignorant song, you know? Like the I don't know, just the beat itself and like all the rhythm and all the grooves that are in the more metalcore slash deathcore parts. Like it just, like in my opinion, that one is just like a dumb like go wild type of song, and that's what I like about it. So yeah, people going wild for that too.
And honestly, sometimes it's just easier to have fun with some of this stuff and just create a song like that where it's not as heavy or as serious as some of these other ones, where it's just, we're going to throw something in there. We're going to vibe with the trap and the metal. We're just going to kind of mix together, see what happens. And people just enjoy it. And you just have such an incredible experience listening to that stuff live, where you kind of just want to be a part of that. It's kind of like Electric Callboy, where it's just, you listen to their music, it's like, yeah, it can go heavy at times. It's fun. So they like not really taking itself too seriously, but who doesn't enjoy it? It just makes a lot of sense. But when you brought up Scars, I'm like, out of the 2 songs that I had picked as like the ones I think the fans would go the absolute most nuts for outside of Dying World, yeah, Scars was one of them. Absolutely was one of them.
Hell yeah.
And thinking about that chorus too, where you're talking about going more like a melodic, that Breaking Benjamin style. Breaking Benjamin is one of those gigantic bands where when they go and headline, it's like, especially in the US, like they're not headlining small venues. Like if they headline a venue, like the smallest venue they'll headline is like a 5,000 capacity venue. Yeah. And it's just because there's some way that people connect with that sound, and it can mix in with more metalcore, deathcore style as well. I mean, take a look at how on the new Motionless in White album, because I think song Signs of Life, they kind of had a chorus similar like that, or on the song Masterpiece, it's like, did Ben Burnley, if he sings on this, it sounds like it's Breaking Benjamin. But there's such a connection to it where the fans can really get into it. They can really feel this certain emotion, a certain feeling off it. But it's that bridge and the breakdown on Scars, which that was the thing that lit me up the absolute most. I couldn't believe you guys came up with something like that.
Nice. Thank you so much, man.
I mean, if people haven't listened to it, I kind of looked at it as, it's basically like, from a vocal style, if it kind of reminded me of I Prevail's Unclean vocalist Eric. Like, his style went on top of this fast-paced deathcore kind of like backing. Then the electronics all slightly over the top to create this manic feel to this fast-paced, glorious breakdown. Only to close with an absolutely killer shredding solo, which I was not expecting in the slightest. I was just like, we're going. I just imagine myself in the pit just going nuts, throwing everyone around. All of a sudden, that guitar solo hits, and it's just like this weird bliss just comes right over you. It's just like, ah! Whoa! This is too cool, man.
Sick, dude. I appreciate you saying that, man. That's cool.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Hell yeah.
I'll say the other song I thought people would definitely go crazy for, especially after really listening to it, was Toxic.
Oh yeah, that one is really sick too. I think people really like the chorus on that as well. The breakdown is sick too, because I use this like pitch shifter to drop an octave down. So we're in C sharp for that one. So when it gets pitch shifted, it's like a C sharp 1, bass is C sharp 0, which is like super low. And it just works really well, and it's all layered with synths. So it's like we'll have like a dirty synth bass like in the back as well. And it's just like a wall of sound, and it just works really well. And I think, yeah, like Toxic is also being really well received too. So I'm really happy about that, man.
Well, even earlier when I brought up like potentially, coming to the US and touring with certain bands, and when I brought up the Australian metalcore band, specifically Polaris and Make Them Suffer, this was the song that made me think of that. This was the one, because I'm listening to it instrumentally, awesome. And a lot of it, like just the way it was constructed, it sounded a lot like the raw, just, the guitars, the drums in the back. It sounded very similar to something I would hear off of like the Death of Me album from Polaris in 2020. But then you get the electronics over it. It just adds so much more to it. It adds so much more of this intricate vibe to it, but it still is heavy in that metalcore sense. But then the vocals, I'm like, once you get to some of those heavier vocals, I'm like, it's like if Sean from Make Them Suffer came out of this track, just went absolute ape shit on this. And then you guys experimented so much with deathcore, with metalcore throughout the whole entire thing. There's so much going on in this track where I'm just like, this would be the one where, again, there's so many different tracks on this album where I could be like, yeah, people are going to go, absolutely craziest in the pit. I still don't know which one to pick. So, like, I kind of want to pick The End of Dying Wish. Or Dying World. I want to pick Scars. I also want to pick Toxic, too, just because of how insane it is. Like, there's so many songs here. It's so hard to pick one that's just like, okay, this is going to be the one that's going to get people going the craziest. No. Now it's going to be this one. Now it's going to be this one. It's an embarrassment of riches on Lotus right here.
Dude, thanks, man. That's what we wanted to create, man. Just with the album having all it's all for us. It's just having like moments, you know, like having all these like really memorable parts and just like it just needed to be huge. Lotus for me, it just needed to be massive. Every song had to hit. Like we are not putting out any B-side songs, you know. Like these are all like I think I wrote like 20, I think I had like 30 songs ready for Lotus. And out of all of those, we made like lists of like which songs are good, which songs are okay, which songs are shot. And the shot ones, we obviously like threw those away. Like we already knew which ones were gonna not make the cut. And it was like the hardest part about Lotus was just like picking which ones of the demos we should have and which ones are going to make the most cohesive sense. So we really went like very, very particular on how we wanted the album to sound and what songs need to be there. But yeah, man, like again, just having those huge moments and those huge feelings, very important.
And that's kind of, I think, the best way to describe this album is when you listen to these songs, it's not just one moment on each song either. There are multiple moments on these songs that are just going to stand out to you. I mean, for me, it's always like something like the breakdowns are the ones where it's like, these are the ones standing out to me because I'm already fully imagining myself in the pit going absolutely nuts of this stuff. But then you're listening to some of these other pieces, like again, going back to Dying World with the little Lotus feature, it's like, there's a moment right there. Going to Toxic, just the intro for myself, I'm like, that is it right there. Scars every way about it, especially, and then the guitar solo at the end of the breakdown. Those are moments where it just stands out so much. But you also have the choruses in these, and they're catchy as all hell. It's impossible to not listen to this album and not be able to remember like 2 or 3 moments from each track. There's so much going on here where you created something that a lot of people are going to be able to listen to, get into. But when you pick out like, okay, what was your favorite moment that caught you? You're going to get so many different answers from so many different people per song because you created this album and created all these songs to hit on those moments. And there are so many moments in each song where people are going to get connected to it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Like that's the goal. That really is. Just have it. Just yeah, as you said, exactly.
And that's why, like, when I was preparing for this episode and when it came to listening to it, after I was done listening to it, that's why I started sending it to as many people as I possibly could because it's like you guys gotta listen to this. Like, there is something here that you gotta just like grab onto. I don't know what the hell's going on in like the metalcore world, but there is something going on when it comes to, you know, something going on with the Australian bands. There's something going on with the UK bands. And then when it comes to more of the mainland Europe bands, there's also something going on there that we got to take notice to because there's so much creativity going on. There's something that just stands out as a lot of these songs have so many moments in them. So all of a sudden, it's like you come over to the US, it's like there are some bands that are doing that, but it's just there's a different level. And you guys are embodying this different level when it comes to at mixing metalcore and deathcore together, but all the different electronic programming that goes over the top that totes that perfect fine line in each song to have all that be a perfect complement and stand out to create each and every one of these moments. There's something there that we gotta look at, we gotta understand, because I feel like in 4 years, everyone's gonna be trying to do something like this. Like there's like all of a sudden this could be the album that people look back on as like a sempiternal where it's like this was something that was the start of a gigantic change, or like the Holy Hell album from Architects with the Doomsday riff. Like this is the moment where something started. Like this album, the way that you guys mix that metalcore deathcore style together, the way you put that all those electronic pieces together for it and had them mix so well in there is something here that could easily be the catalyst to the next wave of creativity in metalcore.
Thanks, man. Dude, I really hope that that's the case, man. That would be such an honor.
It would be fitting for an album like this. We'll just put it that way.
Thanks, man.
So one other thing is, now that the album's out, you guys are on tour, and we're going to be approaching 2023 as well. When it comes to Within Destruction, what's your prediction for the band in 2023? What do you think's going to happen? Like, any ideas, anything you guys are planning, or anything you guys want to achieve? Like, what is going to be your prediction for the band going into the next year?
For the album, get this album in front of people, as many people as possible, play as many shows as possible, play these songs as good as possible. Yeah, man, that's it. Like Lotus is out, and we want to push that hard. So I'm hoping next year is going to be busy because I think for the last 2 years not being like just sitting around, like I want to make up for it. So let's get going.
Well, if you guys come over to the US, which I hope you guys do, and I expect you guys to go over to the US, especially with this album. I mean, make up for it as much as possible. Hell, all of a sudden I'm going to see multiple shows around me within like a 2 to 3 hour drive and be like, oh, it's a Tuesday. You guys are playing like 4 hours west of me? Yeah, sure. Why the hell not? Oh, no, you guys are playing 2 hours north of me? Yeah, sure. The next day, oh, you're in my hometown? Perfect. Oh, 2 days later, you're in the city of Chicago? Yeah, that's nothing. We're going down there. We're moshing this 4 times in 1 week.
Sick. Awesome. I look forward to it, man.
And one other thing, we're gonna need to get some of these like YouTube reactors to like listen to some of these songs and go crazy. I want to see Nick Nocturnal make a video going absolutely crazy to some of these breakdowns.
I would love that. I love his videos, and it would be an honor.
I also want to see the 2 Rockin' Grannies listen to this and see what they think, because
that would be sick too.
They're just hysterical, and well, I feel like there's something here where all of a sudden they're listening like, we haven't really heard anything like this before, but now we're intrigued, and all of a sudden you guys are gonna have like, just this back and forth reacting to the reaction from the Rockin' Grannies.
Yeah, bro. I honestly, that would be sick.
Well, we might have to make a TikTok short out of that specific piece and tag everyone in and be like, we're making it happen. We got to make something happen like that.
Make it happen, dude. I want to plug our band with these reactors, and let's go.
Let's speak into existence. And Howard, as we bring this podcast to its conclusion, the one thing I like to do before we close these out is give my guest, which is you in this case, a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote at the end of the podcast. So Howard, the floor is yours.
Yeah, yo, stream Lotus, man. Like, it's out on all platforms. Spotify, Apple Music, etc., etc. I think it's definitely our best work. Like, I think if you ask anyone in the band, they would all say that this blows everything out of the water by far. Just having it, and also having it mixed by Jeff Dunn is incredible. Like, that guy is a legend, and he made it sound way, way huge. Like much more massive than we ever sound before. Yeah, also, yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Now it's time for me to close this podcast with 3 things. First off, when it comes within destruction, Lotus is out. You are not going to want to miss this album. If you miss this album, you're going to be looking back at yourself in 2 years wondering, how did I miss this album? Well, I'm not going to let you miss it. So what you want to do is you're going to want to follow along with Within Destruction on everything. All their socials, you're going to watch those YouTube videos. You want to get tickets to their shows. You're going to want to buy their merch. And you're going to want to stream this album, listen to this album, buy this album, download some, everything about it. So instead of having to look all this stuff up yourself to be able to follow Within Destruction and do all these things, I'm doing all the hard work for you. Description of the podcast, let's say find Within Destruction online. Links for everything, socials, streaming the music, buying the music, buying merch, buying tickets, everything about the band. And those associated links as well, so that you can, it's just a one-click, one-stop shop. I'm doing all the work. It's convenient for you. Come on, let's do this. Now it's time for number 2. However, whenever I've guests on the podcast and I enjoy having the podcast, I always tend to make a certain promise. And as a way to basically say thank you for being on the podcast and I wish to continue to support the band. Yeah, everyone hits this pretty much, and you are not breaking this streak. So when I get to see you perform live for the first time, I said when because it's going to happen, time and day to be determined. But when I get to see you perform live for the first time, I normally say first round's on me, but because I know you guys said you don't drink, how about I just bring like 2 gigantic pizzas to the tour bus and be like, dinner time.
That would be awesome, man. Like, that'll be more than enough, bro. That'll be sick.
Perfect. And as we bring this podcast to its full conclusion, number 3 is I cannot say goodbye in good conscience, mostly because 1, that is way too final. 2, I would love to have you back on the podcast again. And 3, I must keep my promise. So this is not goodbye, Howard. No. This is, I'll see you later.
All right, see you later, dude.
Well, folks, an interview with Howard from the band Within Destruction. Once again, their brand new album, Lotus, is available for you to go stream, listen to, buy, download, get some merch from them. Make sure you get tickets for their shows when they're around your area, and follow along with them on all their social media accounts. You're not going to want to, miss out on this band. This album is an album of the year contender for sure. Lotus by Within Destruction. So you want to make sure you listen to it, you support the band. Go to the description of the podcast. It will say Find Within Destruction online, and you'll get the links for their social medias, where you watch YouTube videos, where you can buy their merch, where you can stream the album, download the album, buy the album, all that great stuff to support these guys, because this sound is fantastic. Let's get back over to the U.S. Also, be sure to remember to, like and subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for your viewing pleasure. You can also find us and the podcast video style on YouTube, so please hit that subscribe button. Or you can subscribe on Spotify, Podcast, iHeart Radio, Amazon, and wherever you get your audio downloads for podcasts, because we're many different places. Thank you, Britain Media. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe. If you're like, nah, I don't want to, please reconsider. If you're like, yeah, I'm subscribing, thank you. If you're already subscribed and been here for a while, thank you very much. This is like my favorite thing to do, so let's keep this rolling. And remember, thank you to Manscaped, 20% and free shipping on your entire order using the code CPP at checkout. Thank you, Howard, once again. Come over to the U.S., man. I got to mosh to some of these songs. This is going to be a lot of fun. So on that note, that's going to be for today, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one with a big, healthy, and hearty see ya.